Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast is the football podcast. Everybody's here, and we're all talking football. Fantastic. We're talking games that have gone, games that are to come, football news, everything. It's just a football podcast. It's what you would want from a football podcast. All the football. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Share the podcast around. That's the key one there. Share the podcast around, people. If you've got a football fan in your life, send this podcast their way. They might even thank you for it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, football podcast.
Recording in progress.
The lady is not wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on in. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, you're seeing something that you've not seen for a couple of weeks on the podcast. That's correct, ladies and gentlemen. It's a full boat. Let us all rejoice. Joining me this evening are the finest people from the East Riding, the North East and York. Welcome on in, gents. How are we all doing today?
Okay. Considering. We'll get to this.
Yes. Yes. A little bit of foreshadowing from Mr. Woodmansey there. And what better place to start than with our first game from week 9, which was indeed Hull City taking on Plymouth Argyle. How did this one pan out in the end, Mr. Woodmansey?
Expected a bit of spanking, and it never arrived, thankfully.
No, we asked about the game, mate, not what happens behind closed doors.
Not the after show.
I'll have you know that I went to this game not only with my 2 children, but also my friend and my godson. So there was definitely no weird shit happening at this game. In fact, there was so much not weird shit happening that Hull let the lead slip first off, which is completely par for the course. No, Randell scored for Plymouth on 22 minutes. Hull had pretty much been in control of the ball for the entire time, and then, how can I put this accurately? That's right, shat the bed and passed it around too much on the edge of their own box. Got pressurised, gave away a corner, which led to them not defending that very well. The ball got pinged out, put back across the face of goal, and all of the Hull players completely missed it, and Randell was at backstick just for a tap in, which was a bit duff, really. Saying that, Hull picked up exactly where they left off in the regards of they got over their little blip, took control of the ball again a lot more. And thankfully Regan Slater scored to equalise on 44 minutes. Quite often Hull seemed to be that team on the receiving end of a goal just before half time or just before full time. So it was quite a turn up for the books for Hull to be doing that to somebody else. But yeah, then the second half was more of the same. I guess the summary would be we absolutely hammered them 1-1. It's true. 66% possession. Hull had 21 shots, but only 5 of them were on target. Plymouth also had 5 shots on target, but they only had 11. But their goalkeeper decided to just have an absolute blinder in the last 6 minutes and completely saved the points. The 3 saves in the last 6 minutes, which secured Plymouth a point. But to be fair, Hull just weren't clinical. The 66% possession, half of that was probably just in our own 18-yard box where they're still passing it around. I understand that's the way that Rossini wants to play. I understand that certain people in the crowd that may or may not possibly sit very close to me believe that is the only way that we can now play football because that is what Liam Rossini has said. However, if there is no plan B if you're experienced in watching football, if a manager has no plan B, eventually that will be the thing that loses him the job the quickest, because it gets sussed out, team starts getting beat, bye-bye. So, yeah. But yeah, we picked up a point. Unbeaten in, 7 games or 8 games or whatever it was at this point. Still unbeaten at home this season. So that's something. But yeah, much better than I anticipated. And it was actually quite entertaining to watch. It was a decent enough game. Just need City to be a bit more direct at times.
Well, going into this game, from a predictions perspective, I believe on the podcast last week I said I'm making a prediction. If it doesn't work out for me, it will be the last time I make said prediction. That was me predicting that Aaron Connolly would score a goal in a football match that took place with him involved. Did he score? Did he balls? Therefore, Mr. Connolly remains very much dead to me. Predictions-wise, none of us predicted a draw, so no points for the result. As for the goal scorers, I had Connolly and Traore in a 2-0 Hull win. Stu had Edwards and Azaz in a 2-0 Plymouth win. Matt had Connolly and Delap and Hardy in a 2-1 Hull win. And Andy had 1-0 Hull with Delap. So, no points for the result, no points for goal scorers. Not a great start.
One thing that I did forget to mention, Paul, seeing as although you guys already know this because it came to the group, was that we did go to the ground a little bit earlier and the boys met some of the players on Saturday, including Aaron Connolly. So, at least the boys weren't the shortest person in the photograph. So,
yeah, very, very nice that he's taken time out of his busy schedule to take pictures of the boys. Just a shame he couldn't pull his finger out on the pitch. Maybe if he just frosts his tips a little bit more, he might be a little bit better. So our next game sees my lot, Middlesbrough, taking on Watford away from home. Strange one, this one, as in this, I believe the last 3 or 4 times this game has been played, it's ended in nothing but pain and heartbreak for the Borough. Ridiculously enough, I believe this was quite the opposite. Within the first 4 minutes of the game starting, ball was in the middle of the park, and Johnny House. I saw a clip on X, as we're being now told to call it, of someone saying if Bellingham had pulled off this move, people would be talking about it for years to come. Johnny Howson did like a bit of a step over, but pivoted the long way round to start off the move just outside the centre circle, and he played a fantastic through ball for Riley McGree to latch onto just inside the box, and then just slip underneath the goalkeeper for a very nice opening goal. And one suddenly became 2 a little bit later when Matt Crooks broke with the ball inside the Watford half, drove it to the edge of the box, laid the ball sideways off to Riley McGree, who wrong-footed the keeper to make it 2-0 to the Borough. Just before half-time, or certainly slightly later on in the first half, Watford did get a goal back through Bayo. There was a long ball that had been played through the middle by one of the Watford defenders. Dale Fry couldn't quite sort his feet out, and the ball went past him into the path of Bayo, who took the ball and slipped it just underneath Seny Dieng for the first Watford goal. And then, about 10 minutes into the second half, the equaliser came for Watford. Wesley Hurt. It was a corner that was clipped in and cleared to the edge of the box, where he kind of controlled it, and then almost he it looked as if he like just like tried to arrow it straight in the top corner, but it kind of like looped in. But like, the way that he'd hit it didn't look. It looked like he'd hit it and then managed to somehow slow the ball down on its trajectory. It was a very strange one. Looked nice. Obviously not ideal from a Borough perspective. That made it 2-2. And then Josh Coburn managed to get what turned out to be the winner with about 20 minutes left. Matt Crooks, yet again, in the middle of the park, played a lovely slide rule ball through for Coburn to latch onto just at the edge of the box. And he very coolly stuck the ball under the advancing goalkeeper to make it 3-2 to the Borough. And that's how it panned out in the end, and that's how it finished. So, predictions-wise, myself, Stu and Matt had all picked 1-1 draws for this. Stuart had gone for Rajovic and Crooks to get the goal, so sadly no points at all for Stu there. Matt had gone for Martins and McGree to score, so Matt gets himself a bonus point for the goal scorer. I had gone for 1-1, but I'd gone for Bayo and McGree to be the goal scorer, so I do manage to give myself 2 bonus points for scorers there. Captain Optimistic over there in the corner, Mr. Andrew Cook, had gone for a 2-0 Borough win. Latte, Laugh and Fours to get the goals, so no correct goal scorer points, but does get himself a point for the correct result. So 2 games in, Stu gets to get off the mark. Matt and Andy a point apiece. I've taken a lead with 2 points. Our third game of the week saw Andy's team, as it were, Derby County, take on Cambridge United. And as the game finished 0-0, we don't even need to discuss it. That is delightful, ladies and gentlemen. Well played. Sadly, none of us went for a 0-0 draw. Myself, Stuart and Matt had all gone for 2-0 Derby County wins. Andy had gone for a 1-0 Cambridge win. So no points for anyone there. We'll just move swiftly on, shall we?
I honestly thought you were going to say, sadly none of us went to the game. Like, why would we have gone?
What, you mean spend our hard-earned cash to go to Lack of Pride Park? I don't think so, somehow.
I don't have to go anywhere near it when I'm visiting relatives, so...
Shout out to my friend Chris who did pay to go to that game.
Ooh, no. Cut. Our fourth game of the week sees Nottingham Forest taking on Brentford. This was the live game on Sky. Sadly, I was unable to watch as I was at a friend's house during this. I know, amazing. I actually have friends. Ridiculous. How did it pan out in the end, Matthew? I saw that little shake in your hand there, by the way. That was noted. Will they go on a permanent record?
So, I mean, I didn't watch it either. I listened to the commentary on the radio. It sounded like Forest pretty much dominated the first half. I think Brentford grew into it a little bit later. Old Tommy Frank got his knickers in a twist about a couple of dubious VAR decisions, kind of thing.
Based on their track record this weekend, they were perfectly fine.
I was going to say, if he thinks they're bad, he's got other fish to fry.
The less said about VAR, the better, I think, at this point, for during the show.
I mean, it generally, like, I don't want to go too much on a tangent. Listening to that, there's not a comedy series, there's not comedy writers, not the best comedy writers in the world could have written that kind of thing. It's almost like something out of the thick of it, where you got the lad who's like the video operator going, do you want to do? You fucked up. Kind of, that's what he might as well have said. Do you want to delay the game because you are 100% fucked up right there, lads? No, it's all right. No, definitely kind of thing. You know, we're still jet lagged to shit after coming back from the UAE or something like that. But we'll get back to Forest though.
Did you see the Paddy Power thing about that? About the last thing about the VAR was, we can't do anything about it now. The game has continued. Definitely can't do anything about it. Also VAR. Let's give Man United a penalty a minute after the game has finished. It's absolutely true.
Sorry about that. It's really bad. Then, just about 10 minutes after half time, Forest had Niakate sent off for, I don't know what the build-up was, but that was a pretty soft yellow card, if you ask me. He kind of clumsily trod on the back of his heels. There wasn't like a malice in it. It wasn't a he got away from me, so I'm going to take him down kind of thing. It was a clumsy tread on the back of the heels. Sent off, so he was sent off. And Norgard for Brentford scored the resultant scored from the resulting free kick to give Brentford the lead. But just a clip into the box, poor defending, header, nicely done. But Forest managed to show a little bit of fight, and deadline day signing Nico Dominguez scored quite a nice looping header from fantastic cross from Harry Toffolo, who could be debated whether he should be playing it at the moment or not. But yeah, I think Forest kind of clung on to kind of keep the point, which I think a lot of Forest fans are getting a bit twisty, a bit kind of impatient, thinking that the team should be doing better. They've got to settle in all these new players, but that's progress from last year, because last year they fell apart and Brentford won 3-2. So I think the team's starting to come round.
Also, who's moaning about getting a point when you're down to 10 men and you go behind in a game?
I think there's just this kind of... I think there's a real sense of... It's annoying, considering how the fans were last year, and then all of a sudden it's doing the same old Forest stuff of, look at all the really good players that we signed, and look at where we finished last year, and we should be kicking on. And you kind of think, it's a really difficult league, where, and a lot of the players that they've signed haven't quite, have only been at the club a month, and they've spent a week of that away with international breaks and stuff like that. But I think they're kind of growing into it, and I think a point against Brentford is quite nice. Yeah, it'd be lovely if we were beating them, but we're on 8 points already, and so yeah, I'm quite chuffed with it. So I'm slightly suspicious thing. Gibbs White didn't start, rumoured to be rested because he's had a busy summer.
Watch his space, I would say, for that one. Interesting. He's only a young lad as well. Predictions-wise, Andy was the most optimistic of us all and had gone for a 1-0 Forest win with a 1-year to score, so sadly no points for Mr. Cook. Matt had gone for a 2-2 draw with a 1-year in Gibbs White for Forest and Buemo and Vissa for Brentford, so I guess it's off a point for the draw. Sadly, no points for the goal scorers. Myself and Stu, however, had both picked 1-1 draws. 2 points apiece for us there. Sadly, neither of us picked the goal scorers. I had Gibbs White and Buemo. Stu had Hudson-Odoi and Lewis Potter. Just realised that he picked 2 double barrelers there. How very nice and symmetrical. Lovely. Our 5th game of the week. Let me just double check. I believe it's the 5th. It is the 5th. 5th game. Excuse me. 5th game of the week. We go back to Mr. Woodmansey's boys and we see Ipswich Town taking on Hull City. I believe we all went to this with a little bit of trepidation as we felt that Ipswich doing quite well and Hull were potentially coming to the end of a decent run of form. Did it pan out that way in the end, sir?
Yep. Oh, this is the point where that's the point where I have to talk about how bad they were. Right, so again, I think I mentioned this last week, but just a very special fuck you to the people who organised the fixtures away to Ipswich on a Tuesday night. What are you even playing at? This was Hull's 2nd defeat of the season. We sit too deep. Just sit too deep. But the first goal was played down the left. Crossover to the right. Lovely finish, to be fair. Driven into the bottom left-hand corner. Second goal. Played down the left. Cross to the right. Driven into the goal. So pretty much exactly the same, although maybe a little bit more centrally taken this time. Does anybody want to guess what happened for the third goal? Because, yeah, that's right, it went down the left, was crossed into the middle, and then banged into the goal. So, effectively, the exact, they found the weakness, and they took it 3 times. So, Burns on 5 minutes, Chaplin on 41 minutes, and then Harness in the 65th minute with no reply from Hull. The nearest they got, just for Paul's sake, was in the 17th minute. Delap linked up with Connolly, but it was a bit of a tame shot in the end. But Paul would probably say he'd expect that. So,
imagine my shock. As usual for the podcast, the most optimistic person was Mr. Andrew Cook, who had gone for a 1-0 Hull City win. Sadly, no points for you, sir. The rest of us had all gone for Ipswich wins, so we do get points. Sadly, none of us have gone 3-0. Stuart gone for a 1-0 win with Chaplin to score the goal, so gets himself 2 points there. Matt had gone for 2-1. Broadhead and Ladapo with Delap to score for Hull, so sadly only gets himself a point for the goal for the correct result there. I too had gone for 2-1. I went for Slater to score for Hull, so I was a game too late on that one, sadly. But I did have Chaplin and Burns to score for Ipswich. I managed to get myself 3 points for that particular game. Just the 2 games left to go through in week 9. Or is it week 8? Well, it's still week 9. Back to my boys again, where Middlesbrough took on Cardiff City at the Riverside. Middlesbrough went into this one. I think the stat that I'd found on Twitter was that they'd won their last 9 fixtures played midweek at the Riverside since they were overturned 3-2 by Cardiff City on a Tuesday night, strangely enough. So I went into this one with a little bit of trepidation, as is the usual case. Obviously, Middlesbrough going into this one off the back of 3 wins on the spin. Bit of a turgid first half. Took an awful lot to. No matter what Borough kept trying to do, they just couldn't seem to break through the rigid Cardiff defence. Neither team really seemed in the mood of wanting to sort of really press to look for a way to find a way through. In the second half, though, that changed. Back into the team off the back of a rather torrid appearance against Sheffield Wednesday was Lucas Engel, the left back, as Aidan O'Brien, the guy on loan from Nottingham Forest, is currently out injured at the moment. He's been played left back in the last couple of games, as there's a bit of a crisis in that particular area. But Lucas Engel came in and he cut out a ball that had been cleared from the Cardiff box. Worked his way back into the byline and drilled the ball across from the left hand side for Isaiah Jones at the back stick just to stick the ball. He barely could miss. He was basically about a yard out. So that was Isaiah Jones' first goal of the season. And Cardiff kept attacking to try and get the equaliser. And about 5 minutes before the end, they had another attack that was cleared on the edge of the box. Marcus Force picked up the ball and just played a nice little through pass for Emmanuel Latte to latch onto from basically the edge of the centre circle. He outpaced the Cardiff guy, drove into the box. Lovely little cut back to stick the Cardiff player on his arse. Almost slipped. Well, he did in fact. He slipped over. Still had enough time to stand up again, recompose himself, and took the ball in the right hand corner to finish the match off. So 2-0 to the Borough. 4 wins on the spin in all competitions. Very nice. Predictions wise, Stuart gone for a 1-0 Cardiff win here. Sadly, no points for Mr. Woodmansey. Shame on you, sir. Actually, this is the first time this season that Cardiff haven't scored as well. Matt and Andy had both gone for 2-1 Middlesbrough wins. Matt had Crooks and Latte Laugh to score. Ugbo to score for Cardiff, so gets himself a point for the result and a point for the scorer. Andy had 2-1 with Coburn and Fours Robinson to score for Cardiff, so sadly no points for the scorers, but does get a point for the result. I, on the other hand, had picked a Middlesbrough 2-0 win. Happy days. 2 points for the result. I did have Coburn and Crooks to score the goals, though, so sadly no bonus points for goal scorers. Last game of the week takes us over to Andy's team again, and it was Derby County. Sadly, they were away at Blackpool. Didn't really pan out the way we all thought this one, as Blackpool, sadly, were not able to do us a favour and take Derby off our hands for us, as they capitulated to a 3-1 loss. Dougal scoring the goal for Blackpool, Smith, Collins and Waghorn bagging a goal each for Derby. Predictions-wise, none of us had gone for a Derby win. Stuart had gone for a 2-2 draw. Rhodes and Norburn to score for Blackpool. Collins and Nelson to score for Derby. Gets himself a point for the goal scorer there from Collins. Andy had gone 2-0 with Rhodes and Beasley to score for Blackpool, so sadly no points at all there for Mr. Cook. Myself and Mr. Moore had gone for 2-1 Blackpool wins. Rhodes with 2 for me, and then Waghorn to score for Derby, so a point for the goal scorer. Matt had gone Rhodes and Lavery and Collins to score for Derby, so manages to get himself a point for the goal scorer. All that does is at the end of the week, after all 7 games, Andy had managed to bag himself 2 points from those 7 games. Stu, 5 points from 7 games. Matt, 6 points from 7 games. However, taking the win this week is myself with a whopping 10 points from 7 games. I'll pat myself on the back for a job well done. That just leaves us with week 10's predictions to make a start on. So, before we do that, we are just going to step away momentarily, recharge ourselves, and then bring you our thoughts and feelings on those particular games. We'll see how we get on. You guys won't have to do anything though, as we'll be right back in your feed momentarily. But for us, we're just going to step away 2 seconds. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back in. So, week 10 starts off with a north-east derby. Sunderland taking on Middlesbrough at the Stadium of Light. We'll keep it clean. So, obviously it's my team, so I will go last. Let's see what Mr. Cook has put down for this one.
This is another one of those weeks where I've decided to mix it up somewhat by going a little bit different. So, 1-2.
Ooh, interesting. Your 1 for Sunderland.
Burstow.
I believe he was playing up front for them tonight. He certainly was on the weekend. Your Middlesbrough 2.
Latte Laugh and Fours.
Combined beautifully for the second goal last night. Let's see if they can get a goal each on Saturday. Matt, what have you gone for this one?
I've gone for a 2-2 draw.
Goal scorers, please.
Clark and Bellingham score for Sunderland.
Yeah.
And McGree and Latte Laugh for the Borough.
Stu?
I've got a 1-1 draw with Bellingham for Sunderland, and he's got to be severely overdue now. Crooks for the Borough.
obviously he'll be right up for it with his 2 assists from last Saturday. Didn't start the game against Cardiff, as I believe he was being rested. He might have had a slight knock. I have gone for a 2-2 draw, very similar to Mr. Moore. Almost identical to Mr. Moore, in fact, as I've also gone for Clark and Bellingham to score for Sunderland, McGree and Crooks to score for the Borough. So we were almost all in for that one. Our next game takes us to Mr. Woodmansey's team. Millwall versus Hull City. Obviously it's his team. He will give us last. I'll dive straight in here. I've gone for a 1-1 draw on this one. Gone for Nisbet to score for Millwall and Delap to score for Hull. Andy, what have you got for this one?
0-2. Syed Amanesh and your favourite Hull player, Connolly.
Obviously, Andy hadn't heard the prediction earlier of we don't put Connolly's name as he's dead to the podcast. But we'll see. Matt?
I've also gone for a 1-1 draw with Longman, Old Boy Rule, and Slater.
Well, this is what I was worried about. I just remembered something. Matt, pick another Hull goal scorer, because in the Ipswich game, Slater came off with his hamstring, I think it was, and immediately after the game, Rosinia said that it's probably looking at 2 months.
Delap.
Also, did you say Longman?
Yeah.
He won't be able to. I don't think he'll be able to play.
That's what I was.
Is he on loan or is he?
Yeah. Can pick Honeyman if you can pick Honeyman if you want Old Boy Rule, but
We'll go with that then.
Men around if you want.
Huh?
You swap your men around if you want. Long
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Honey.
Well, they're both men. They're just whether they're long or honey.
Exactly. It's not Longy, it's Honey. Stu, how's this one going to pan out? How many are Hull going to lose by?
oddly, I mean, you're all sat down because I can see. I have actually gone for a Hull win.
What?
Yeah. I have gone for Millwall 1, Hull 2, and I've gone sort of not old boy, but for the podcast old boy in terms of Watmore to score for Millwall, and I've gone for Philogene and Delap for Hull.
Now, Philogene's one of these ones that really annoys me because he's just dropped one of his names. Because I'm pretty sure that a couple of seasons ago he was on loan at someone. He was Jaden Philogene Bidace.
I am not having this. I am not having this, Mr. Brereton Diaz. You should be fucking happy that he's only got one name for the amount of shit that you give that guy. Philogene's never played in Chile, never been to Chile.
That's got nothing to do with this. You can't just add a slightly South American sounding name to the end of yours to make yourself sound more South American.
Matt, everybody else watching along on YouTube, say it with me now.
Yeah, whatever. Our third game of the week is Mr. Cook's adopted side, Derby County. Obviously, they are playing away from home at what can only be described as League One's worst kept, not secret, but awful case of events. They're playing away at Cheltenham Town, who at time of recording have played 11 games in League One this season. They have scored 0 goals in those 11 league games. That is quite some feat, let me tell you.
That's got to be borderline record territory, sure.
I would imagine they've probably set a record. Oh no, I think I said I believe I mentioned it to my dad, and he was like, "Oh, they've still got some to go to beat Pool's record. So I believe Hartlepool United are the record holders for amount of league games in a row without scoring. I will look into the record books and find out that record for next week. I have got them to break their duck in this one for the league, certainly for this season, as I've got them to score. However, I have got them to also concede 4, as I believe they're rock bottom for a reason. So I've gone for Cheltenham 1, Derby 4. Circum to score for Cheltenham. Waghorn and Collins both to get 2 for Derby. Stu, what have you got for this one?
I have got... whilst I agree with what you've said, it could also be one of those occasions where they should get absolutely pantsed and it ends up being a boring 1-0 game. So that's what I've gone with, but I've gone for 1-0 Derby with Collins to score.
Matt?
I've gone for 0-4 with Collins 2 and Waghorn 1 for Derby. And I think we should introduce a rule that if we guess the score right, we get to pick a new team.
I dare say we'd all be on board with that. Was it Smith for the first goal scorer?
Yeah, Smith, Collins 2 and Waghorn.
Andrew, how do you see this one panning out?
1-0 to Cheltenham.
You love it. You love to see it. You love to see it. Goal scorer?
King.
And wouldn't he just be? Let's be honest.
Yes.
From a betting perspective, I think I could probably call it now. That will bust some people's coupons this weekend if that happens. Our next game sees Crystal Palace taking on Nottingham Forest, and this is another one that I believe is live on the TV. That's something I forgot. The Sunderland Middlesbrough game is the early kickoff on Saturday. 12:30 kickoff, live on Sky Sports TV. Crystal Palace versus Nottingham Forest is the 5:30 Sky offering. Mr. Moore's team, he will go last. Andy, what have you got for the Crystal Palace Nottingham Forest game?
A 0-1 to Forest. A Wanye to score the goal.
Very nice. Stu?
I've got 1-1. I've got Mateta for Palace and Hudson-Odoi for Forest.
Very good. Sadly, I've gone for a 2-1 Palace win on this one. Obviously, Palace have just come off the back of beating Manchester United, which, let's be honest, is no great sort of feat at this particular point, as everyone's beaten Manchester United this season, it would seem. But I have gone for Palace to retain, to sort of keep their momentum going. So I've gone for 2-1. I've gone for Eze and Mateta for Palace. Gibbs White, fresh off his rest, for Nottingham Forest. How do you see this one panning out for your boys, Matt?
I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I think it's kind of trying to establish ourselves. So I've got an Anderson to score. Again, I've also gone for Gibbs White to score as well.
Very nice. And we've only got the one game midweek to discuss. Sadly, it is Mr. Cook's team again. But they are playing against a team from Nottingham, which may give a little bit of added needle to the game. It is Notts County versus Derby County. This is an EFL trophy game, so there could be changes afoot for Derby. There might be changes for Notts County as well. Notts County are currently top of League 2. I've gone for a 1-0 Notts County win here with Langstaff to get the goal. Stu, what have you got for this one?
I've got 2-0 Derby, Waghorn and Collins.
Matt?
I've gone for a 3-1 Derby win with Langstaff to score for County.
Yeah.
Collins Hourihan and Forner.
Hang on.
He's an ex-Forest lad who signed for Derby in the summer.
What was his name again, sorry?
So we've got Collins, Hourihan and Forner. Forner? Fornah.
Fornication. Andrew!
Your prediction?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, put that down.
Just 1-0 Langstaff.
Correct.
Excellent. That, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our business. Or does it? Mr. Woodmansey mentioned during the week that there was a little element we could always bring to the end of the podcast to just bring a little bit more sort of excitement into the mix. Where if we were to put all of our teams into an accumulator and see what the odds would be for wins, draws, and losses. So I will do that now, using any other betting sites are available. However, I personally am using William Hill. Mr. Woodmansey looks like he may be offering the same options.
Yep. I've just had a little look into it, and I'll not step on your toes too much, but obviously
if you've got the odds ready to go.
So as a treble on all three teams to lose, it gives odds of 10.48 to 1, which is by the bookies, that is the most likely outcome of the win, the triple win, triple draw, triple loss situation. The treble to win for all three teams is down at 28.5 to 1, and the treble for all three teams to draw is 35 or 35.5 to 1. So, reckoning that the odds on them all winning are higher than them all drawing, I could see all three games being a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more than all three winning, personally. But we shall see if our predictions were more accurate than Mr. William Hill, or agree with the realms of Mr. William Hill. I know that not all three teams necessarily will do the same result, but it just makes it a little bit easier to manage on the old betting app for comparison in terms of wins, losses, and draws. But so little 50p bet on each of those. Obviously, the most profitable one being the three draws if it happens. But we shall keep you posted.
Indeed. On a similar betting front, just having a look at the Cheltenham versus Derby game with the early odds, and I haven't seen this for a long time, but Cheltenham as the home side, you can nearly get odds of 5 to 1 just to win the game, which in a league scenario is kind of unheard of, I would say. 24 to 5 currently for Cheltenham to beat Derby. Derby are only 8 to 15 for the win, which doesn't even seem as if that seems like it should be shorter.
You watch Cheltenham absolutely spoil the party now. But
it'd be absolutely hilarious if Cheltenham run out 8-0 winners or something like that.
Well, mate, if they could win by half, I'd take it for the podcast purpose.
Oh, yeah. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is your weekly football update. Obviously, thank you to these three wonderful chaps for joining me to talk you through the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the shenanigans and whatnot of Middlesbrough, Hull, and Nottingham Forest and Derby. To a certain degree as well. Obviously, the name could change. Fingers crossed it will. Obviously, at some point we're gonna get sick of talking about Derby games, so we will just put in a random rule. We'll insert the. Do you remember when in wrestling they came up with the wild card rule where people could move between Raw and SmackDown? whenever they wanted to, without the need for it to be explained in the storyline. And it was just designated as the wildcard rule. Well, we'll just implement the no derby rule on the podcast, and Mr. Cook gets to dart at a map, and we pick his new team based off that. Or we'll do it in a way where whatever your last meal was, Andy, we'll base it around where the closest main ingredient came from, or something like that. No? Not like that? He looks confused, ladies and gentlemen.
These kind of comedy shenanigans that leads us to having Derby as on the bloody podcast. This is what this is.
Where do we class salad comes from?
Well, you'll be able to work it out based on the packaging.
Let's have some rhubarb at some point, and then we can pick something around.
Where does Linda McCartney live these days?
Probably best we don't. Probably best we don't pull at that. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you once again, gents, for joining me, giving me the update of your boys. And thank you to you for joining in for another week of fantastic football news. Join us again next week, where we'll break it all down and do it all again. But until then, it's goodbye from all of us. See you next week.
So there we go. What do you think of that? A lot of games gone, some games to come, football in between. More could you want? It's football, baby. Big thank you for watching. Big thank you for listening. If I can get you to do a couple of small things before you go. Like the podcast, please. Share it around. Subscribe. Subscribe if you already haven't. That way you get notified about new episodes. Leave a review. 5-star review would be amazing. And check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There you'll find social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.